Good morning. My name is Patrick, and I'll be your conference operator today. At this time, I would like to welcome everyone to the CA Service Operation Insight Community Webcast. All lines have been placed on mute to prevent any background noise. After the speaker's remarks, there'll be a question-and-answer session. If you'd like to ask a phone question during this time, simply press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. If you'd like to withdraw that question, you may press the pound key. Thank you. I'll now like to turn the call over to Director of Product Management, Kiran Diwakar, to begin the conference. Kiran?
Yep. Hey, thanks, Patrick. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Kiran Diwakar. I'm the product manager from SOI perspective. I've worked with a lot of you. I see a lot of familiar names here in my capacity as a Spectrum product manager. We did a demo a couple of days back, and now we're following up with sort of what our plans for SOI are. So essentially, what we're going to do this session is talk about some of the feedback that we got from you all, and then what steps are we going to take here. So this is the mandatory disclaimer that I'm supposed to show you. So essentially, while we talk about the plans, this disclaimer that our legal team calls out essentially says that some of these plans could be altered based on our resourcing. So essentially, as I said, I was asked to take over SOI from a product management perspective around middle of December, early December. And in the last 1.5 months, I've reached out to a lot of you, both online, virtually, as well as physically having one-on-one discussions with you at your site. So over the last 6 weeks, I've talked to over 30 users / customers and partners from an SOI perspective. And what I wanted to do was, okay, at this point in time, do we have everything figured out? Probably not. But one of the feedback we got was the level of communication that the customers have is not as much as customers expect. So I thought, at least let's give people a view of where our heads are with respect to SOI. So okay, so from a roadmap perspective, this is where we are today, and I won't spend too much time here. You see here, we released for last quarter a bunch of good enhancements there, both from a UI perspective as well as ServiceNow connector perspective. And while we were working on, and while I should say we are working on SOI 4.0 CU1, that plan has been delayed slightly. And I touched upon this during our community webcast. I'll go into a bit more details about what has happened and why has happened there. Okay. So as I said, over 30 customers, we talked to some great feedback. And by the way, it was not just customers. We talked to our internal support teams to get their view on what are those areas that our customers are unhappy with, what are the areas they like. We talked to a lot of our internal pre-sales teams and sales teams, services teams. So I think essentially we are trying to make sure that we are hearing from all possible areas, sections, internally and externally. And there were some fairly strong recurring themes, which I thought need 2 things. One, an acknowledgement that yes, we do understand and agree that this is an area we need to improve on. And then 2, we would want to call out, okay, what are those specific steps that we are taking? Okay, so not to take this negatively, but I just want to make sure as well, this is more of an acknowledgement that yes, we hear you and we are taking steps in that direction. So these were a bunch of concerns, as I said, I mean, recurring ones that I heard, not just externally, but internally within some of our groups as well. So, okay, the turnaround time for fixes is fairly slow, I would say. Documentation, community idea status, functions, communication, a bunch of things. So that, okay, if these are the recurring themes, what is going to be our action plan around that? So first and foremost, turnaround time for fixes is slow. So what are we doing with that? So I think there's a higher level of sensitivity around tickets and the problems that customers face with tickets and how we are responding to that. So there's a general sensitivity around that. Want to make sure that, okay, when our engineers, both on the L1 side and L2 side, talk to you, we are setting the right expectations, we are communicating what we are asking, why we are asking, making sure we do that. Our engineering team with our support, our level 1 support, has a very special targeted focus on age issues. So there's a threshold that, okay, all the issues above 30 days, 60 days, we have a plan of action to target those on a higher priority and make sure that those are got out of the way. As I said, the L1, L2 teams along with our field teams are working very, very closely to come up with structure in place, at least for the next few quarters, to make sure that, okay, we are signing off things between different groups, that, okay, when a ticket comes from level 1 to level 2, what are the things we expect, so that we don't ask customers the same things over and over again. When we are giving an expectation about a fix, what is it that we would want our engineers to communicate? We have some procedures in place that are taking shape now. I think they are working well in the last couple of weeks. You see some progress around that. As I said, we've gone into this training program where some of the more senior members within our field, they went onto our engineering sites and did not just the product training from a technical perspective, but also from a customer use case perspective. We've hired some additional architects, some senior folks, and while obviously they will help with some of the escalations and bigger problems that we have, I believe we are in a much better position now to take a step back and look at the bigger picture, drive those discussions across the team, anchor some of these areas around these couple of people who come with that strong background in that area. So I think we're doing a bunch of these things to make sure that the response time we have for your tickets, for your questions, is better than what we've had in the past. As I said, I mean, I just want to call out a caveat around this, right? I mean, these are intermediate steps. Now, in some cases, you might see a difference immediately as of today. And in some cases, it might need to take a little bit of time to bake some of these processes to ensure that they are showing value. So that's it. The idea here was I'm getting into some of these even dirty details, internal details of what we are doing, just to make sure that we let you know there's transparency, that we understand some of these problems, we acknowledge that, and then we are moving ahead with those as well. The next concern, and again, this was again pretty generic internally, externally as well, was documentation is minimal, and some of the customers actually were very emotional about this, where they said it's non-existent. And when we went back and reviewed, I wouldn't be able to make a blanket statement that it's non-existent everywhere, but I did see some fixes, some fixed readmes that could have had a lot more meat than what they currently had. So absolutely, point very well taken. One of the first things that and this is being driven by our support organization, is they've come up with a template between L1 and L2, which has predefined sections, mandatory sections that need to be filled out when you issue a patch. So what is the problem? What is the solution? What are the prerequisites? Any other patch you need? Any other component? Does it need a restart? All that good stuff that you would expect with a fix, with a patch, that will be made sure that it is in there in that template. And not just that. That template would be reviewed internally before that the template once filled out would be reviewed internally before we publish that to the external world. So I think, as such, is it rocket science? Is it something that no one else is doing? Of course not. We are trying to figure out some good processes across our other products, across different groups, and trying to embrace them to make sure we are a lot more streamlined and efficient there. Obviously, one area that we're trying to push, and we're working with the documentation team, is to drive scenario-based documentation, not feature description, but scenario-based documentation. I think something that we've tried with Spectrum, that if you want to discover a new device, how do you do that? If you want to change the configuration of a device through the tool, how you do that? Same thing with SOI. We're trying to come up with something like that. We're trying to figure out YouTube videos for key functionality as well. So you'll see a lot of these changes coming up as well. One key thing that came up with some of the customer visits that I've been doing is how do I know I am stressing the SOI system to its maximum extent from a performance perspective? So essentially, I mean, when I do call in support, how do I know whether I'm calling in the with the right problem, or is it just my environment issue or my network issue, or what is that? So one thing that we realize is, okay, today at this point in time, we do not have a officially published performance benchmarking documentation from a SOI perspective. We have already started working on that. A few of our field folks, they already have some content that they use when they go to customer sites. They're going to use that as a starting point and build off of that. So that's one thing we are doing. And then obviously, to make sure that we give you more platforms to convey your questions, comments, feedback, we'll be having more office hour sessions as well. You'll see that in the coming weeks. For example, one of that is scheduled on Thursday itself. This one was interesting, and again, this is not generic to SOI. This is I've seen this in other places, other products as well. That the concern raised was every time I raise a defect, your engineers close it off saying that it's an enhancement. It's not a defect, it's an enhancement to a functionality. So there's a lot of angst. There's a huge sensitivity around that within the customer base, within our internal field teams as well. Again, we get it. A couple of things we're going to do here. First and foremost, the internal teams, we are sensitizing around, okay, what do you mean by a defect? A defect is something that the customer cannot use the product efficiently to operate in their environment to derive true value. At this point in time, a defect could mean a small one-line code change, or it might mean adding a gap, adding a small capability that was a gap from the beginning itself. So in both cases, we would want to make sure that we are articulating the problem in the right way to the customers without getting into what does it mean internally in the back end to us, whether it's a one-line change, just checking that change, or is it going to be go through a full iteration of an agile sprint, make the change, test it, merge the change. We'll do that internally. So as I said, one statement I wanted to make to this team was that any regression will be a defect from our side, and we will prioritize that. Now, the thing that, and our engineers and our engineering management was slightly skeptical, or rather uncomfortable me making this statement, because in some cases, a regression could be meaning a large code change in the back end, which we might not be able to deliver in a day or two. But I think the thing that we agreed upon internally within our team is, one thing is communication. So we will agree, we will accept that, yes, this is a regression, something which was working and it is not working now. It is a defect, we will go and fix that. Now, if it is a small change, we'll obviously go and do that immediately. But if it is a larger change needing 1 sprint, 2 sprint, or more effort, we will go back, size that, estimate that, line that up within our work, and go back and set the right expectations with the customer. So for example, in some cases, delivering a fix for the defect that is essentially a design change might need a couple more sprints than what a defect needs, which is what we'll be open and honest with you. But as I said, the starting point there will be that we will be talking about defects as problems that we introduced into the product that were not there. And like I said, this is what we are trying to work out. If you have any thoughts, any suggestions in this area, please reach out to us. We'll be happy to discuss. The next one was not much visibility into my ideas that I have on the community. Again, this is again, we don't even need to talk too much about this. There's a commitment from us as a team that you will see a lot more idea updates, and we will use the community discussions like these, the office hours, to roll out some of the dispositions that we do for the ideas on a very, very regular basis. So I think that's definitely committed from our side. Quality, functionality, ease of use gaps, there's a lot of things that people talked about. I mean, I ran out of at least 2 notebooks that I carried to customer sites and on the phone. Good news is we've converted that into a digital format. We have a backlog in place. I'll run you through that. That I said. What we're going to do is we're going to first prioritize some of these things that will enable our users, our customers to operationalize the product a lot more easily, use it a lot more effectively before we start getting into moving a lot more bigger stones from a product portfolio. You'll see that in the roadmap that I'm going to share. And last but not the least, this is not enough communication. And again, as I said, we get it. We understand that we could live with a lot more communication, not just with SOI, but every product that we have within our portfolio. We are working with Melanie and team, our community managers and our marketing team, and we have a plan in place, for example, for office hours, for monthly webcast. I did an internal webcast last week, a couple of weeks back on SOI. Our goal is to do a webcast and some session with customers, with our internal teams at least once a month, and you'll see that getting rolled out a lot more crisply in the coming few weeks. As I said, we have a office hour session scheduled for Thursday. Please plan to attend that. I see people are adding specific problems they are facing in the chat window as well. Absolutely, please get onto those calls, please get onto those office hours and hold us accountable for some of these things that we want to do. As I said, I think it will need a lot of collaboration between our team and your team to make sure that we are getting some of these things done sooner than later. So I think I'll leave you with that. I think, yeah, actually not, I won't leave you with that. There's just one last point I wanted to make. That what we're trying to do is we're trying to create an internal gating team and external gating team. And what do we mean by that is, we are creating a small team of our pre-sales, our field folks who are very passionate about the technology, very passionate about the problems, and they're very vocal about why we are not doing some of these things. So we are going to first have an internal team and run a lot of our initiatives and roadmaps around that. That's point number one. Secondly, we are going to create a small team of external customers who are always external in most cases, but a small team of customers that will be our external gating team. And what we will not only review with them is not just the code, the features, but we would want to review with them the general direction, the backlog, the features, their view on some of those things, and then make sure that we close all these gaps internally, externally, and the eventual plan that we build on, you guys have a lot more visibility why we are doing something, right? Because it's easy to call out, okay, these are the things we are doing, but the rationale behind why we are picking number 3 as 1 now, and then we pushed out number 1 to number 6. I think that conversation gives a lot more better picture for you as a user as well. So again, these were the concerns. These were the things that we talked about, some steps we are going to take around that. I just wanted to reiterate our commitment to quality, and I shared this during the beta webcast as well, so I won't spend too much time. But we delayed CU1 by 10 weeks because we believed we needed to do a lot more things than what we were doing from a quality perspective. We are doing these bunch of things in the quality initiatives. As I said, I won't read through that. But because I've already talked about that a couple of days before, we are creating customer setups, we are replicating customer DBs and then trying that with the product, doing longevity tests, doing performance tests. We're doing a ton of new things that we did not do in the past. One of the additional things that we're doing is we are using our own tool, CA APM, to instrument it around SOI to figure out the bottlenecks. And we're already seeing some pretty good results. So we were able to catch some UI issues. We were able to catch some of the backend SOI manager issues. And we're going to instrument this further to different other facets of the product and try to integrate that within our automated testing as well. So I think there are a lot of good plans around making this a consistent process across the board for the upcoming future. And last but not the least, we're trying to come up with a way where we can package some small instances of this for customers so that when you do open a defect with us saying that, okay, my manager takes a long time to open, we have some of this data already collected by the APM instance for our support teams, for our engineers to debug that a lot better. So as I said, we are venturing into some of these different areas where we believe we would be able to get a lot more value of, even if it means that using some other products to do that, we are very open and we are doing that very diligently. Now, as I said, we have extended the release by 10 weeks at least. We have over a dozen customers starting with the UI connector update that they're testing, and we are having a lot more people try out Jasper and the other CU1 features as well. this is the data that we have, and I think this speaks a lot about how some of these changes that the team is doing, how is that resulted into value. So CU1 was supposed to go GA in December, all right? So at this point in time, so around early Feb, we have around 180 defects open for CU1. Mind you, that number looks large, but a large portion of those defects are Jasper related. So, but nonetheless, I think in the interest of being open and honest, we have around 180 defects open for CU1 at the moment. Of these 180, we had around 69 that were opened within the until the December timeframe. And again, this includes, we have removed the Jasper parts out of that because we wanted to make sure that we're doing an apples to apples comparison, right? Because we're talking about quality and stability, and Jasper is a new feature. It would obviously add a lot more defects than existing features. So until December, we had 69 defects that were open and then were being fixed. So had we released in December, we would have fixed 69 defects. From December until Feb now, we have opened 54 new defects. 54 using the new test cases that the team has added based on the escalations, based on the customer discussions, based on the general additional awareness about the product. And the new setups that we have set up, the new environment that we have set up, replicating customers setups, replicating customer databases, that has resulted into 39 defects. So essentially from December till date, we have around, how much is that, 18, 89, around 93 defects that we have additionally opened from December to date, which is what the value of these additional test cases and these new customer setups is. So one way to look at it is obviously, oh, you guys found more defects, but the way we are looking at it is now we'll be able to fix around 100 defects before our customers see that. And you see, our focus is a lot more around installation, upgrade, longevity, performance, and so on and so forth. And you see, we'll continue to do that release over release, quarter over quarter, year over year. So I think this is an ongoing effort. This is not rocket science. It just takes diligent efforts. We did this with Spectrum. We know how to do this, and we will do that with SOI as well. So I just wanted to keep you aware of some of these steps we are taking and how this data is making us feel happy, not because we are seeing more defects, but we are feeling happy that we are able to catch these now before we go GA. Okay, with that said, where are we going to head from a roadmap or perspective? So as a product, where are we heading? And feel free to stop me, team, if you want to ask any questions. I will be leaving some time towards the end as well for Q&A. But if you have something during the presentation, feel free to stop me. I'll be happy to take questions. Okay. So with that said, where are we now? Okay. So CU1, we talked about this already. This is something planned. It will go GA this quarter. We are tentatively looking at middle to end of March. Provided we fix all the defects that the beta participants raise and all the defects that our QA team has raised. So that's one thing that I have got an agreement with our engineering teams as well. That, okay, we are opening up the beta for like 12, 15 customers. They will open defects. Until we fix all those defects, we will not announce GA. We have created new setups, we have created new test cases, we are finding bugs. Until we fix all of those, we will not go GA. And the reason I'm telling you this story is, while we are planned to go GA in March, if we believe we are not comfortable because we haven't fixed all the defects, that date might move as well. But tentatively, we feel good about March that we will be able to fix most of these defects, all of these defects that are shown up as well. So as I said, Jasper-based reports, that's something we're going to get into the release. There's a fix, a change that the engineers have made in response to some of the escalations from some of the larger customers. They were able to find some bad code, if you will, within the product, and we are able to fix that, and we are able to showcase around 40% performance improvement in SOI manager startup time for those use cases that the customers were using for. We documented that, but I think very promising. We're very happy with that. SOI console improvement as well. So this is from a UIM perspective where we are handling the service assignment and removal a lot better. So in the past, with large number of services, this would go into a hung state and we wouldn't be able to get it to work again. So we are fixing that. And then we talked about stability and quality features, the additional things we are doing, and obviously UIM connector and APM connector. I won't spend too much time around this because we did a demo around this. I'm not sure if I posted the recording of that demo, but I'll do that if I haven't done that already. But this is what is planned. We are going to do this. We're going to get this released in this quarter, assuming we fix everything, right? So that's what we are doing. One thing I want you to notice here is, I think this was something we debated internally as well, that, okay, should we call out this SOI console improvement? Should we call out performance improvement? Because these were bugs that were raised by people and people have been frustrated with that. And I think my rationale around that is, you'll see in the roadmap as well that some of the line items are derived from the defects that customers had raised. And what we are doing is, we're not only fixing the defect per se, but we are going to evaluate that area that customer has run into a problem with a bit more holistically with the broader senior engineers, architects, and make sure we have a plan around that area, not necessarily the defect. So that's why you see that even the terminology in some of these subsequent slides, you'll see that that terminology is aligned with the ticket terminology that was in there. But as I said, I'm making a conscious effort to even line them up on the roadmap, as I said, not just as a defect fix, but looking at that area very broadly. Okay. The next one. Now, all these slides after this are under consideration, and you saw the first slide in there that our legal team asked us to put. While we very strongly want to get some of these things done, there might be some plan changes, because this is our ask of the team to get these things into the product. But once the architects pick this up, size it, there might be some additional dependencies, complexities. Things might get moved around a little bit, but I just wanted to give you a peek into where our head is, what are we thinking based on the feedback that we got from the customers. Right. SOI 4.1 is what we're trying to do immediately after CU1. The quality, stability, performance, better upgrades, improved manager startup time. So this will be a theme in every release, a percentage of our bandwidth reserved for doing these things until we start seeing a change in the usage of customers and some positive feedback consistently. So this will be a line item in every release. The second one, this is more of a bug that I was trying to allude to earlier, right? That in many cases, there's a consistent trend in the support tickets. Our support teams call this out as well, that in many cases, the SOI manager does not stop gracefully and just remains in a hung state. Now, as I said, this is a defect. More than one customer have raised this defect. Would you typically call out a defect on the roadmap? Probably not. But as I said, our perspective here is, this is a consistent problem people are seeing. Not a very good problem, not a very good user experience. Probably forget user experience. It's not a good functional scenario as well, that you're using the product and suddenly you're not able to use that at all. So what we're trying to do is, okay, the level 2 team will provide a fix for this, no doubt about that. It's being prioritized, we'll fix that. But we would want to look at this area of things getting in a hung state at different places a bit more holistically and broadly, and that's where the APM kind of a scenario or a code walkthrough or a much more stringent code review of what exactly is happening in that area. That's something we are trying to plan, assign an engineer or two just to do that kind of an exercise, which might not be coding or fixing, but more of an analysis of why are some of these conditions occurring within the product. So we're going to spend time around that. The next one is alert cleared by who, and I know this has been something the community has been asking for a very long time. Almost every customer I met, I talked to, did call about this, that instead of being the highest voted idea, why are we not implementing? So we're going to get this done with 4.1. The other thing that keeps consistently coming up is the SOI toolbox. So that is almost like a Pandora's box, that SOI toolbox and the DB enhancements is an area we will be investing most of our resources into. Now, that's a broad area. As I said, we'll chunk it out into pieces that we can take a reasonable bite at every release, but that is one area we will be taking up very, very seriously and very, very immediately. So, for example, first and foremost, the toolbox doesn't clear data from all the tables, a big problem. The next big problem that I need to bring down the SOI services before I do the toolbox actions. Not very good, not very enterprise-wide. So that's one of the first problems that I've asked the team to look at that, okay, we'll do all the good changes in the product, but first and foremost, we would want to make sure that the users are able to do their maintenance activities, their backup, purge, or cleanup activities without needing to bring down the service, because it's not fun raising a CR, tracking the CR just to do that. So it will be done, and I mean, that's why it's called under completion, because at this point in time, I cannot tell you that it will be done in 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months, but please be assured that's something we will not rest until we will be getting that functionality capability to you. Atrium, the BMC Atrium connector, there are a bunch of gaps that are identified by customer. And again, I mean, please remember, I'm being very open and candid here, calling out some of the feedback that I've got from a subset of our customers. And then we are seeing some of these things within the community as well as in our support tickets as well. So please do not think of this as, oh, there are problems here, there are problems there. Every product has its share of problems. What I'm trying to just give you an insight into it. We've heard some of these problems, and we have a fairly crisp plan that we feel good about to execute on that plan to take care of some of these issues. So Atrium connector, cleaner logout operations from some browsers, and then obviously SOI uses 2008, SQL 2008. It will be going end of support if it has not already, but that's one exercise that the team is going to take up, is to investigate what is the effort to go to 2012 or 2014 from a SQL perspective. So that's what we're talking from a 4.1 perspective. After that, what do we want to do? And again, I mean, use these release numbers as placeholders. I mean, they could change. We might call something as 5.0, 6.0. I don't know. But at this point, I just wanted to give placeholders for, okay, what are those chunks of content that we want to release to market? 4.2. And I was struggling between getting the first item in 4.1 itself, because slightly surprised as well that we don't have a way to roll back fixes or upgrades for SOI. So yeah, you could take a database backup, but many of the customers I talked to said that doesn't work every time, which is not a very good situation to be in. But that's one of the things that the team actually has started some investigation in. Initially, it might be a documented set of steps that you need to follow, and then we assure rollbacks based on that documented set of steps. But eventually, we would want to have a tool or some way automated script that we give you that takes care of these backups for you for upgrade or fixes. So again, something we believe should be there in an enterprise product. It will be there, and as I said, we will work through that. PAM was another thing that, I mean, people consistently raised their eyebrows when that component came into discussion. People don't like it. So one of the things that we're going to look at is, okay, some of our connectors depend on PAM, for its operations. How can we remove that dependency, make PAM optional? There are people who like it though. I mean, while the general sentiment is not very positive about PAM, there are customers who use it pretty uniquely, nicely, and like it. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we make that component as optional. As I said, database operations, that's the another big topic that we would be addressing and we would be investing a lot of our resources into. Automatic purge and backup operations. So I think Spectrum has mastered that. Okay, probably I'll take a step back. Not mastered, but Spectrum does that pretty nicely. So we are going to take help from some of the Spectrum architects, some of the Spectrum engineers, and see how will we be able to do something similar for SOI. Again, we are committed to do this. The architects at the onset have said this is going to be a difficult exercise because SOI was not designed and the design is not conducive to make this happen. But this is a problem. Every customer talks about this problem. So if it means we need to change the design to get it to work, we will do that, which means it will take a little bit more time, a little bit more investment. We'll pull out people from other areas within SOI and make sure we get this done. So that's what we'll be doing. Spectrum connector takes 2-3 hours to start up. So I've already talked to my team on the Spectrum side. They're looking at this. We will make sure we do something like this. And then removing CI from the connector without a connector restart. Again, and when I hear about some of these operational workflows and how tedious it is to do some of these minor small changes, I just wanted to call out, say, we acknowledge, I think some of these things are not very easy. They're not very easy in other tools, other products as well. But what we will be doing is we will be taking it upon ourselves to simplify it, make it simpler, easier for you all to use the product. And then once we do that, then we will start adding some new capabilities, some new areas which are being asked as well. SOI toolbox options as menu. So, and the keyword here is instead of command line options. So there are a lot of these toolbox capabilities that are delivered as CLI. And many customers I talked to said that the source of many problems is that these CLIs need to be run manually and there's a scope of some issue happening in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to give these as menu options that you can just take from the UI and run. And people who are a lot more confident with this and want to automate some of these workflows within their code will still leave the command line options anyway. As I said, the investigation was in the earlier release. This release in 4.2, we would want to actually implement SQL 2012 or 14. The next one is the more from a UI perspective again, that the tenant ID from origin field to the tenant ID from the SOI field. Again, as I said, we believe this is something that is being heard from many customers. I think this will make things a lot more easier, simpler for customers in a multi-tenant environment where we're going to do that. And then last but not the least, some additional things from an SOI alarm console operation. So we're going to simplify that area to some extent as well. Under consideration, still under 4.2, we're still at 4.2. DSP support. I think this was one big thing that kept consistently coming up. We will be going into supporting DSP for SOI for SLA service report. Again, this is a commitment we are making to the customer base. As I said, this is why this is under consideration. This is one area we want our engineers and architects to go and look at. Import export of the alert queue service models, the mixed mode authentication for SOI DB, replace Google Earth. This was the copying existing policy file to another server just with a right click. And investigations, Linux support for SOI. I saw a comment from Dan on the Q&A roster about SOI support for Linux. Absolutely, the investigation has already kicked off. It will take time because a new platform support itself will take some time, but that's something we're absolutely committed to do. As I said, I didn't want to read through each and every line, but I just wanted to give you a peek into this is what my head is at. This is where my head is at. This is what our team together, when we talk about these things, this is a combined agreement across our team. This is not my list as a product manager, but this is a combined agreement we had with engineering, architecture, and some of our field team guys as well. That, okay, these are the top things we will be going after with the product because we believe, even though some of these are enhancements, this is what will allow users to derive a lot more value from the product a lot easily, which is very, very critical. I'll just touch upon one last point on this slide before I move ahead. The second last item, version consistency across all connectors. So there are two parts to this. The first part and a stretch goal that we have given our engineers is a release of SOI will always be backward compatible with every connector because we wouldn't want to make customers upgrade to a new version, and then one connector breaks, and once we change that connector, you figure out something else is again breaking, you go to that connector. So given that SOI in itself has multiple moving parts, one thing that we can do from our side to simplify this, not just for customers, but even for ourselves, is any new release of the product will be backward compatible with the connector. Now again, this will need work. There are some technical challenges we have, but again, that's going to be our North Star for the team. And secondly, Since we are getting all the connectors under the same engineering team now, that's one organizational change we are making, that in the past the connectors were with the product team, but we are bringing the connectors and the engineers who work on the connectors under the same engineering manager who manages SOI. We believe that will give us a lot of efficiencies. Now, when we do that, one of the things that we're going to do, again, to simplify this is to align the connector version numbers to the SOI version number as well. So everything would be 4.0, everything would be 4.0 CU1, everything would be 4.1, 4.2. Again, this will take a little bit of time to bring that consistency, but we want to simplify not at the code level, not just at the code level, but also some of these operational levels as well. So again, we have a lot of thoughts around these things. And then, as I said, once we believe we have a good grip on some of these business basics that I like to call, we are gonna venture into some of the bigger building blocks. Service discovery refresh. I think this is one area that we believe if we fill out some of the gaps, add additional capabilities both on the connector as well as on the SOI side, it makes the service creation and management a lot more easier and lot more out of box than what it is today. So again, I wanted to give you this perspective that while we are fixing some of the things that we believe need to be done immediately, we haven't lost track of what the next generation or the next set of things from an SOI perspective would look like. Domain connector pulling, CIs in addition to services and others. We are going to invest a lot of time in reviewing this entire reconciliation and correlation business we have in SOI. It is good, but we believe it could be simplified, it could be made a lot more efficient, and we're going to spend a lot of time just taking a step back and relooking at it from a design perspective, from a value perspective, and how we can simplify it. The entire SLA risk and quality calculations, we will be relooking at that as well, because in many cases, customers are not completely happy with the granularity around that. We'll work through that. Today, we have two SNMP connectors, one with the IFW framework and one with the Catalyst framework. Again, all our own internal problems we created for ourselves as part of the overall strategy in the last few years. But one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to take a very hard look and rationalize on this and figure out what is our go ahead mechanism from an SNMP connector perspective. We want to make sure, like Spectrum, like many of our other products, SOI is highly available, fault tolerant as well. But I'm sorry, it's going to be a big bite, something very big we need to take a stab at. So it's going to take a little bit of time, but that's definitely something we want to look at. Automated service discovery, revamp of SOI based on HTML5 technologies, long due. We are going to do all that. We're going to venture into all of these things, but the reason I very clearly wanted to call this out as a medium to long-term future is because the first two slides I talked about. I first want to make sure we get those basic things in place, the product operates flawlessly, performs very well, scales to a large number of services and CIs, and then we venture into some of these things. So that's where we are. That's it from a long-term perspective as well, and I'm not sure if this is the last slide. I think so. Yeah, so this is where we are. As I said, this is a thought process. You saw a lot of things are under consideration. We are validating some of these things with our internal sales guys. We're validating this with our support team, with our customers. If you have any suggestions, questions, if you feel this is not the right step, we need to do something different, we are open to have a conversation. So please call out. You'll see a lot of these plans will be shaped based on the feedback that you guys give. I'm a very, very big fan of the communities. It's selfishly a very easy way to get validation from a large number of people at a single forum, the value of social media. So you will see a lot more questions being posted on the communities. We'll ask a lot of things, we'll review a lot of these plans with you, and based on your feedback, we will adapt these plans as well. I'll pause here. I know I talked for around 40 minutes, 45 minutes. I'll pause here. I see a lot of questions on the Q&A roster. I'll start off with that, but if anyone wants to ask any questions, please shout out. Okay, can you please upgrade me to friendly? This is our internal discussion. Okay, Leo asks, check the email. Have sent a fairly current YouTube video listing. Okay, thanks, Leo. Appreciate it. I'll look through that. Rick asked, would you mind sharing your installed customer setup architecture with All of us. So, Rick, do you mean the architecture that we are using in-house in our labs? Rick, if you're still there. If the question is that, yes, share with me the architecture that you guys are setting up in your QA labs to test, absolutely, we'll do that. So I'll make a note of that. Let me just actually make a note of that. That we will send you the deployment that we're trying in-house, the DB size and so on. Send customer. Okay, cool. We'll do that. Absolutely. The next one from Leo again is, what are the plans to test and support MySQL 2012 at a glance, allow us availability group clustering? I'll have to get back to you, Leo. So I talked about 2012 and 2014 plans. I'm not sure if the AAG availability group clustering is something different. I think so it is different, but I'll need to get back to you on that. So let me review that with the team. Dan asks, is CA looking to add Linux support? Yes, I talked about that. Rick asks, yes, so I think Rick is what. So yes, Rick, we will absolutely send that out on the community. Okay, sure. Rick, Leo says it's an external. Okay, cool. Thanks, Leo. And Bob asks, can we upgrade from SOI 3.2 to SOI 4.0 in one step? I believe so. Just give me 1 second. I definitely saw. I definitely asked this question myself as well. So just give me 1 second. Yeah. So actually, it's 3.3 or 3 CU1 to 4.0 is supported, and I do not believe 3.2 to 4.0 is supported. I'll have to go back and check that with the team. Let me make a note of this. And then, so all of these questions on the Q&A roster, obviously we will reply to them and post them on the community as well. So Bob, let me get back to you on that. I doubt if that is the case, but let me go back and confirm that. Dan asks, possible update on time frame that SCOM 4.3 container connector will have ability to work on OS. Currently, the latest is server. Again, that's one area. The SCOM connector and the Atrium connector are those two connectors where we're trying to refresh from a platform perspective as well. Again, not in writing, but what we are considering is that in the next quarter or two, we want to get some of these platform updates done. So as I said, it's not a commitment, but I'm just trying to give you a feel for what we think, where some of these things are coming at. Melanie says, okay, Melanie has a response. Jay Ganesh asks, is there a future plan to have the ability to create alert using REST HTTP? Absolutely. So there was one item in the list, I'm not sure if you saw that, under consideration was, we want to revamp this entire SOI REST interface. One of the customers I talked to made a very crisp summary of this. So he said that the SOI REST interface is good for someone who wants to build a UI. It's not good for someone who wants to create an operational workflow programmatically. And I think that person put it very, very nicely. And then I gave that same feedback back to the team. So again, long story short, that will be an area we will be investing in, because I mean, and I say this again and again, our CEO talks about the app economy and APIs as being critical to that. We better follow up on that. So you see a lot of focus in this area as well, Jay Ganesh. Absolutely. Bernie asks, hey Bernie, are there plans to update the web framework like the way Spectrum 10.1 uses? Absolutely. So that is the plan, Bernie. Actually, frankly, before I took over, that was one of the higher priority things that was being planned for SOI. But based on some of these business basics that we need to get in, we've deferred that by a little bit because we want to first have all hands on deck getting some of these business basics out of the way. So absolutely, we will do that. Junaid asks, 4.0 CU1, will 4.0 CU1 introduce new compatibility with the latest FAM version? I believe so. I think we update that with every release, but I'll reconfirm that with the team, Junaid, and when I post the response. And Madeline asks, hey Madeline, are there plans to include some commands that can be used from admin tasks? For example, building bulk services. And when you say, excuse me, Madeline, when you say commands, you mean either command line options or a REST call, right? Because what we are trying to do is have some of these administrator/operational workflows be exposed not just to the UI but the REST API. But I think once we give you a REST API, you can wrap that into a command line or a script or anything that you want, right? But short answer, yes, that's absolutely something we would want to do, and we have it in our plans. Ananda asks, hi Kiran, hey Anand, how are we planning to address event correlation? Okay, now that's a very, very loaded question. So, I mean, Ananda, if you could please elaborate a bit on that. What do you mean by address event correlation? If you're on the line, hit #6.
They would have to hit *1 on this format to have their line open.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Patrick. *1, please. And while Ananda finds his way unmuting himself, Michael Bohm, he's on our internal SWAT team, custom engineering team. So he just confirmed for me that, and I think that's what Michael you're saying, right? That 3.2 with any of the 3 cumulatives, 3.3 with any of the cumulative updates applied, these can be upgraded to 4.0, right, Michael? Yes. So I think it was Bob who asked the question, and I was going to go back and confirm it. But no, 3.3 and 3.2 both are supported to an upgrade to 4.0. So I think you can use that. Absolutely. Thanks, Michael. Appreciate it.
And you do have one person in queue who would like their line open from Mr. and Mrs. Kanan.
Oh, yes, take on, Kanan. Hello?
Kanan?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Your line is open.
Yeah. Hi, Kiran. Ananda here. So when I meant event correlation is that maybe as an instance, we can take a core switch being down, so that's going to trigger us a lot of alerts, that are associated with our other devices as well. So will there be, because I know we have this feature in Spectrum where it recognizes the path and then suppresses the alerts for the devices which are down because of the core switch being down. I'm just taking this as an instance. So
sure,
we're planning to address this because the main purpose of acquiring SOI is to automate the event management. So so by this way, it's going to result us with a lot of reduction in the tickets that are considered something as false positive.
No, sure, I understand. Cool. I think a lot of the customers do use that, Ananda. So I think obviously this will vary from customer to customer, environment to environment. But the broad problem statement that you articulated, that is what SOI and the correlation within SOI tries to solve. So I think I said we should definitely have an offline discussion. But having said that, we do have a investigation, a couple of people planning to look at that entire domain. And then even within our long-term to medium-term plan, if you see, if you go back to the slide, you'll see that we want to do a lot of that correlation and suppression, deriving data from Spectrum, from APM, and driving some of that to minimize the number of events and alarms customers get for the service, and then make sure they're able to triage that faster. So that team absolutely is there, Ananda. We definitely want to pursue that. I've made a note of this. When we do get to the investigation of that, I'll make sure I reach out to you and then be engaged with you and your team and our engineers to get this a bit more deeper. Sounds okay?
Yeah, that will be of great help, Kiran. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Ananda. Any other questions? I'm taking a backup of all the Q&A.
Yeah, we're going to post a transcript of the Q&A to the community, and I've been trying to follow along with your answers in the Q&A box to try to get an accurate response.
No, so what we'll do, Melanie, is I said, so I'm not able to do a Control-A and copy-paste for some reason, which I'm able to do every time. But yeah, if you could just take a snapshot of those questions and send it over, I'll review that with the engineers and architects as well, and then probably post some more elaborate responses than my 1 word, 2 word that I have right now.
Absolutely.
Cool. We just have 3 more minutes left. I wouldn't want to keep everyone holding if you don't have any additional questions. But as I said, this is one of the first that have happened from a community webcast perspective. You'll see a lot more of these. Please reach out to me if you have any questions, concerns. Happy to engage in a discussion with you. Thursday, 11th February, we have an office hours. Feel free to get into that office hours. We will have our architects, some of our engineers, some of our support folks answer any of these questions which are a lot more technical in nature. We'll be happy to do that. And as I said, look forward to more of these, and suggestions, comments, critiques, always welcome. And I'll turn it over to Melanie. Melanie, any last words? I know you have a poll.
Great. Thanks, Kiran. Yes, we're putting up a poll in the WebEx right now. If you all could please respond. We really appreciate your feedback on what type of webcast topics you like. So we use your feedback on this poll to try and create similar webcasts in the future. So that would be great if you could please respond. As Kiran said, we have an office hours for SOI on Thursday. If you have any questions that you think of after this call, please feel free to join that session. We'll have experts on taking your questions. And that's all. Thank you so much for joining, and I hope everyone has a great week.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks, and this does conclude today's conference call. You may now disconnect.